Hi there, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, my guest is Nadia Murdock. Nadia is a mindset and movement coach. She has a bachelor's in psychology, certified in cognitive behavior therapy, and she's a founder of Nadia Murdock Fit. Her education and experience are an interlocking battle of fitness and psychology. She has been helping business leaders to motivate others to adopt a self-positive mindset, leading to a healthier choices and body confidence. Now, I spend a lot of time in conversation with the business leaders daily. What I learned over the last few years is that regardless of your position and title in a company, we are all dealing with some sort of health challenges, whether it's a physical health or mental health. What's different for business leaders is not only they have to deal with their own challenges, they have to help out the teams and staff as well, and also their family members as well if they're dealing with the similar challenges. During my conversation, Nadia talks about her journey, their health challenges, and also her mindset issues as well. And she also talks about how she overcame these challenges and now how she's helping other business leaders deal with the similar challenges as well. She also talks about and shares some tips on how to self-diagnose some of these challenges and seek for help. If you get a value from this conversation, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, please welcome my guest, Nadia Murdock. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is Nadia Murdock. Nadia, welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for time today.
Hi, Gurmeet. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So walk us through, from you're involved in many different areas, fitness, mindset, many in the area, other areas. Where you see some of those biggest challenges over the last couple of years that people are struggling with or what they're up against?
Themselves, honestly. I think the internal dialogue of believing that they can do it. Sometimes, there's a famous saying, fake it till you make it. And I used to believe in that, but I don't know, over time, I'm like, I don't know about that because you almost don't believe what you're faking, right? Because if you're putting this fake version, how much of you feels that you can fill those boots, right? What you're putting out to the world. So I think a lot of internal dialogue stops people from going for that leadership role or, quitting their job and starting their own company because that little piece of them, one of my clients calls their negative self-talk person. I told her, I was like, you should name him because when you name that, it's a way to address it, right? And be like, no, I got this. She names him Dan. And so I was like, look, confront Dan, tell Dan you got this. You gotta learn to believe in yourself, but not just say it, but truly believe it. And how do you do that? Look at your accomplishments in your past. Remind yourself, I did do that. We're so busy looking at the next thing that we forget all the things we've accomplished. So I think the biggest barrier for many people is themselves.
Yeah, so you just you in your own way, you just have to get out of your way and let yourself shine. But that's very interesting. We're dealing with it, just naming it and just calling it every time you want that to be dealt with.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you name it, you're owning it, right? And you're saying this does exist, and it's not something like, oh, okay, whatever. But oh, okay, whatever becomes a bigger thing. It's holding you back. It's stopping you from having that conversation or starting your website. And like you just said, get out of your own way. I think the most important thing is that many of us don't realize when we are in our own way, which is why it becomes a repetitive cycle because we play the blame game, right? Yeah. Oh, she got it, nepotism, or of course she went to Yale, and they find a reason, but you never look internally, why am I holding myself back? Why is this happening for me?
Yeah. You think that over the last couple of years, when everything slowed down with the COVID, people had a more time to inspect their where they are, and they had a more time to make those changes, and whether it was a fitness, whether it was a mindset, because they had quite a bit time on their hands to introspect these items in their life.
For me, I love that question because if you remember post-pandemic, everyone was talking about their pivot post-pandemic. And I feel like it could have gone either way, right? You could have wallowed in worry and fear and feel bad about yourself, or you could have been like, okay, how am I going to take this time and make it work for me? And those are the stories I really love because I think that's where a lot of people start to find their purpose, find out that they hate working and going to work 9 to 5 and they want to work remote. And
Yeah.
they created opportunities for themselves that they thought didn't exist because they just started asking for it. And once your subconscious is tuned in to what you want, that's what really starts to show up for you.
Yeah, especially when you pause for a little bit, you start thinking about, is that really what I do? And you see a lot of
Exactly.
people change their careers, a lot of people change their jobs during this pandemic. I think a lot of that was driven from people had a little bit of time to think it through and pause whatever they were doing.
Yeah. I've met people that are lawyers and now they're event designers, or people that are doctors that are not now influencers. And I feel like there's this own self-guilt that you may put on yourself. Like, I went to school for X amount of years, or I put this many years behind this, but why can't you recreate what's not there for you? I always remember one thing where I knew mindset was in my future, but not at the time. Before, I used to work in marketing and events, and I wouldn't see opportunities that I liked. So I created my own opportunities and I started a baby little PR company and I started to put myself out there. And I think that was the beginning of me trying to step into my power, which eventually led me to fully do it.
And you can combine those two as well. What do you have in the past? What do you learn? All the experiences you have and where you want to get to, you can combine those two and create something unique as well, instead of totally changing what you got to change, right?
100%. I mean, a lot of it's behavioral and how you communicate with others, and awareness and the skill set you may have as an accountant will apply to how you run your business financially, how you deal with others as a lawyer, negotiating skills. I mean, you can't just say, oh, that's a wash, definitely really. And I think the important thing there is thinking outside the box. And when you think outside the box, you have more of a growth mindset versus a limited mindset. And so I think when you have that growth mindset, it's like limitless. Literally, you can create something out of anything. And that's the beautiful part about life.
So if you can walk us through, what is the difference between growth and limited mindset, and how do you achieve that? Do you have to, it's a attainable skill, you work on it and you build a growth mindset, or either you don't, whether you have it or don't have it, is it one of those things, or you just have to build the growth mindset?
So a limited mindset is you're very fixed. Like, this is how I'm born. This is how it is. This is what my mom and dad do. This is what everyone does around me. I can't be anything but this. Okay. I'm not smart. I can't, you're very like, this is how I am. With a growth mindset, you have the, just what it says, it's growth. Like, okay, math is hard for me, but science is really good for me. Maybe I can you think outside the box. Like, how can I use these skill sets and marry them together for success? You also think, okay, I may not know this, but I can learn something. I may not have traveled, but I can travel. You see opportunity. Whereas when you're fixed, you feel like you're limited. And so with growth, you're limitless.
Very interesting. And you can build that growth mindset, Nadia, or is whether you have it is one of those things that, if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Well, yeah, you can totally build it, Gurmeet. But here's the thing. If you're around a bunch of people or family or generationally, and you were raised with a fixed mindset, you don't even know that you have this mindset. So that's why I always encourage people to step outside of your comfort zone, go to that networking event, travel somewhere unfamiliar, join a meetup group, do something different, because you don't know what you don't know unless you're mixing with different people that have different experiences. And that's when you start to have that aha moment, be like, oh, I don't have to do this forever, which is why I love college and opportunities where you can step out of what you're used to and see new parts of life.
So your surroundings makes a big difference. But you're saying that if you're surrounded by the limited growth mindset people, you're not gonna be able to do anything. Learn something new.
Exactly, and like I said, you don't know if you are, but also the stuff you take in on social, right? If it matches what you're surrounded around physically, like, friends, neighbors, and things like that, switch it up, find a different account, listen to a different podcast. These are the things that start to grow and spark interest, which allow you to grow as a person.
Yeah. One thing I think of social media is, sometimes what do you like is going to show you that same thing repeatedly over and over. So if you have a limited mindset and you're just looking for entertaining content, whatever you're looking, it's going to keep showing you that same content unless you go out of your way to start looking into the content that is different, out of your, on the area, a little bit more growth mindset, right? So you have to ask for different content in order for you to see the different content.
Yeah. With Gurmeet, that's why I like your show, because you have people from all different backgrounds. So someone may come for one set person, and then they'll stumble upon this interview or another interview. And now, oh, that was interesting. And then now you start looking up behavioral or mindset. And now that's where, it's such a beautiful thing when you discover something that you didn't realize that you loved. And I think you never stop learning. You should never want to stop learning because it can such a beautiful thing about life. Like I don't know, even like a fun fact. Like my son told me, like, Mama, do you know that there's a number called Gagillion? I was like, really? And I'm like, that's just something new to learn. And I think it's important to always be thirsty for something new.
Yeah, I see this challenge, Nadia, in a business a lot as well. They say, well, there's comments saying that, successful CEOs read about 52 books a year. So they read a lot of books. That's how they consume information. But I see a lot of business leaders also challenged with what you just mentioned is a growth mindset. There's some just not looking to grow. And that creates a challenge for our companies. When you have a leaders not looking to grow, how are you gonna teach your people? How are you gonna coach your people to grow and learn more, especially if you're in an industry where everything changes so fast, right? Technology changes, business changes all the time. So how do you stay relevant in a business like that when you're not looking to grow?
I love that. Because I deal with companies too. When I do brand partnerships, I've had a client, she recently started a new job and it's, family owned and they're very set in their ways. So I feel like certain times in business when CEOs and higher level of management reach a certain level, they feel they don't need to learn because I've reached this level, a little bit of ego, maybe intentional or unintentional. And I think that it can be really hard. So as someone that may be an assistant VP or someone that's right under them, I think finding a team that can bring new things to the table is so important. So like not looking for a carbon copy of yourself. Especially like you just said with technology and AI, and there's always something new. So across the gamut, women, young, old, culturally, you can get so many different things brought to the table, which will only let your company flourish. So I think as upper management, that's something to always be mindful of. Yes, reading books are great, but also getting from behind the book too, and going out and meeting people. Maybe attending that event you kind of don't want to go to. You never know. Stepping outside your comfort zone. Don't wait for people to come to you. Go to people. And that's not always easy if naturally you're an introvert or you're not accustomed to that. But find like maybe smaller things like a golf outing or things that are more intimate that will make it less intimidating. But I think as like to answer your question, when you're in upper management, I don't think you should look at the table and just see a bunch of you. I think it should be a bunch of different people, a bunch of different educational backgrounds, work backgrounds, and things of that nature.
Well, the opportunity comes from new information, new perspective, new ideas, right? If you're not growing, if you're not reading a book or meeting other people, how are you going to get that information? How are you going to have those opportunities, right? So, and as a leaders, you have a responsibility to come up with the new opportunities, right? If you can't do that, how you expect other people to do that around you, right?
Exactly.
So I think it just is sad. A lot of business leaders I talk to, and especially the speed of technology changing these days, and the speed of businesses changing, especially with the COVID, right? So a lot of things change. Some companies had to come up with a new product. Some had to come up with the new services, right? So if you are going through that kind of economic challenges, you can't afford not to have a right mindset, not to grow and not to learn.
I agree. I think a part of it too, Gurmeet, is fear, right? If you've been at the top for so long and things have been the same for so long, and now here comes AI and this and that, and you don't know it, you become resistant because of fear. And so it's like, it makes you question like, well, what's my worth in this role anymore? Like, I don't know this, like, this is too hard. And then, so there comes that internal dialogue popping up again, instead of just being a little bit more vulnerable. Like, you don't have to let down your guard entirely, but like, hey, Bob, or hey, whoever, like, you heard about this new thing? I think we should start a workshop. We should bring in an expert and do some internal, like, continuing education sort of program. Like, make it collective. It doesn't just have to be about you. It could be you growing as a team.
Very interesting. So yeah, definitely back to your point that you get in your own way when you have driven by the fears that you have, it's you're doing the same thing, you just blocking yourself. But to your point, Nadia, it's a great point. But all that starts from having a right mindset.
Yes.
So how does the right mindset is first of all develop, and second of all, how do you keep up with the right mindset? Because you could have a mindset today, but if you let your guards off that for a little bit, and you're not in the right health, you're not in a right mindset, you're gonna get off that right mindset again. Then you have to push yourself going back. I feel
Right.
I'm doing that all the time. I get up and then I go back. I get up and then I go back. Right?
Yeah, that's life. But like the great part about it, Gurmeet, is that that you've gotten off. Some people don't even know that they've gotten off. So it's just to put it more simply, it's just like with an exercise program. You start right away, you're at the gym all the time, you're eating what you're supposed to be eating, physically how you feel when you stop doing that. So it's getting more in tune to how you feel mentally and emotionally when you fall off with your mindset. Because when you're on the right mindset, you feel empowered, you feel happy, you feel more positive, you feel more creative, and you'll start to, oh, well, why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel like I'm hitting a block? Why do I feel burnt out? And you got to take a pause. You got to see, like, sometimes you just need to step away from the desk and maybe take a walk, or, fill your cup up in other ways, not just the mindset. So that, when your cup is filled in, whether it's time with family or taking a break or being more creative or, exercising, it brings you back to where you want to be. So I think it's just like a lot of self-awareness, because you're not going to know that you fell off if you're not aware of how you feel when you're in the moment.
Yeah, or we need some sort of mentors or coaches around us to show you the blind spot where you're getting off. Listen, you're getting off. You need somebody to bring you back to the same place. I find a lot of trainers, a lot of coaches, a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
They can help you in that area. If you're going off the track, they can bring you back to the track again. Hey, listen, this is what we're going for.
100%. As a coach, like, my goal is for you not to need me forever, right? I want you to be able to, the tools I give you, that you're able to implement them on your own. But yeah, just like, sometimes they go into a maintenance program and they're like, I got this, but I need that little reboot every month, like for a shorter period of time. Because if you lived your whole life a certain way, and now you've created this new dynamic, it's going to take a while for it to stick. So yes, a coach, an accountability partner, a mentor, an accountability group. These are things that are going to help keep you on track and remind you why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, another part to that, Nadia, is maybe it's just my experience. I was working very hard on a mindset. I was doing all that stuff, but it didn't get so ingrained in me until I started my physical fitness journey. It's somehow when I started working on my my physical health, then mindset gets stronger and stronger, and then I'm staying more on track of that. How does that two relate? Well, first of all, is there a relationship between those two, and is that how you see pattern in people, that when they're physically feeling better with themselves, they stay on a right track with the mindset and everything?
So I always say it's all connected, right? So your mind and body are connected. What you feel are emotions, and you feel your emotions first. So same thing, like if your back hurts, or you feel that first. Why does my back hurt? Oh, I'm sitting at my desk all day. So if you feel anxious, if you feel stressed, if you feel worried, that's connected to an emotion, connected to your mindset, connected to your mental health. So when you start working out, you start to connect the dots. Like, when I have a headache, that means I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm dehydrated. I'm worrying too much. It's not just like, I have another headache, let me put a Band-Aid on it and take a Tylenol. So when you make that full-blown connection between movement, mindset, exercise, and nutrition, you start to create a wholesome and productive, like, nucleus for you to excel. And so if you feel depleted in one arena, your mindset may fall off. If your mindset falls off, you're not your best at work, and then you don't get that promotion. So I think a lot of the go, 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 go attitude leads to burnout. And then after that, what happens? Now you may have a whole pool of health issues you didn't have before, or maybe you don't have the desire to excel towards a leadership role like you did before because you're so burnt out. So I think it's important. I always say it's important to pour into your cup so you can pour into everything else in your life, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, definitely. That is such a great point. I had experience with that, Nadia. Every time I jog a lot and I work out a lot, right? So, but what I find is, those jogging, whether it's workout or books, those kind of two works for me. But every time I'm getting off the mindset, or I'm feeling a little bit, if I'm taking a time off from workout, I'm also going to see that my mindset is also not the sharp as it should be, and I'm not on a right track. So harder I push physically, that the stronger the mindset gets. So for me, what worked for me is that every time I feel that my mindset not where it should be, I just push myself physically, and then mindset get fixed automatically. So I'm not sure if that's the case with a lot of people. For me, that works, but harder I push physically, the mindset stays there where it needs to be. So I find what works for me. I think everybody needs to find what works for them, and then they just have to work on that and keep pushing on that area, so the mindset stays where it should be with the books.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. I think you have to find what works for you and not what works for someone else. So I find that a lot of my clients are doing what everybody's doing, what's trending, and then that in itself creates a sense of mental resistance. Like if you really hate running and you're forcing yourself to run, you're creating mental resistance there. Now you hate running, and therefore you attach that to physical fitness as a whole. Instead of finding a dance class or a yoga, some people need to be outdoors. Maybe a gym is not your jam. And so you find an outdoor opportunity. This goes back to fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. You don't have to be in a gym to be achieving your fitness goals. Hiking, swimming, like the list is endless. Just even walking. I mean, just walking between meetings or during meetings makes such a huge difference. Taking a couple thousand steps a day, if you do that consistently, that is going to make a huge difference. And Gurmeet, that's another thing, consistency. I think we want changes and we want them now. Everything's so instantaneous now. And so when you don't get those results, mindset and body, you're like, forget it, I'm over it. And then you start over again. And there goes that hamster wheel. So I think having that consistency and patience to get what you want. And also remembering your why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want this mindset? Why are you running? Is it so that you can run for 50 more years? Is it so, really dial into a non-superficial reason? And then that is what's going to keep you going and help you reset.
Very interesting. So how do people deal with that, Nadia? People working remotely, they're working from home. Definitely, there's a lot more gray areas than it was before. We don't know when to, a lot of people don't know when to draw, draw lines that, is it work or is it a, luxury time, is it family time? Because even working longer hours, especially if you're working from home, the work comes in a way. So you keep working longer hours, right? So especially with the COVID, what we did. So a lot of, there's a gray area between family time and the work, and also, and social media, it causes a lot more distractions. So there's so many distractions going on. So how do people get better at the time management or managing their boundaries, what they're doing, and get better at it and go back to the mindset?
I love that word, boundaries, right? Because like you said, when you're working at home, people think they can text you at 9 p.m. I think it's setting parameters, setting those boundaries from the beginning of the relationship. If it's a new job, or even if you're creating a new boundary, like, hey, I just want to inform you, my working hours are between X and X. If it's an emergency, you can reach me via text. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself. Don't be afraid to set those boundaries, and, maybe turn off your alerts. So that you're not constantly checking your email or being disrupted in the time that's supposed to be your own. And know what those boundaries are for you that make you feel comfortable. For some people, it's like, I have to check my email. So maybe do it baby steps, and get to that point where, wow, that did feel really good, not having to worry about calling back somebody at 8 p.m. when I'm trying to attend my child's recital. You shouldn't feel guilty about wanting to be present. And I think that is so important, just being present. So when you're at work, you're present at work so that you can be present at home, and try to separate the two as much as you can, which is hard because, like you said, some of us are entrepreneurs and we work from home, or we work from home in general, but figuring out what works for you is very important. And putting those boundaries in place, but being vocal about those boundaries, even if you have like an automated text response. I'm not taking, find the little things that work for you.
Yeah, just create whatever the environment you need to create, and just control it. Don't let the environment control you, but control it, whatever you can do.
Exactly, Gurmeet. That's perfectly said. Yes.
Very interesting. So let's talk about your journey. How do you get so good at fitness and mindset? How do you get involved in this, and how do you get so good at this and helping people in this area?
Thank you so much. What brought me to where I am today is like, I really wanted to show up for women in particular, the way that women didn't really show up for me throughout my career. As I mentioned earlier, I used to work in PR and marketing and events. And as a young woman entering the workforce, I confided in a lot of senior management people, and I thought that they had their best interest in me, and was often, found out not to be the case. So how did I take that? Did it make me bitter? Did it make me give up? No. So there's that mindset, right? Because that's how I was raised. So it's either ingrained, or you're raised with it, or your environment. And I was lucky enough to have friends and, family that were very driven. So for me, it was like, okay, how am I going to create my own opportunity? And that's when I created my business. And so I find when I look back on my past, mindset was always an intricate part of how I created opportunities for myself. So I got my BA in psychology, but then I got my MA in communications and PR, and that's what led me into that corporate world. But fitness was always on the back mind. It always made me happy. I couldn't wait to leave and go do the latest class, or work out with my friends. And I wanted to tap into that feeling all the time. And it had me asking myself, what am I doing? Like, why am I ignoring this passion for health and wellness? So at the time, I started working for a health and wellness site, and I had my own fitness column. And so that allowed me to go to events, interview fitness celebrities, try the latest equipment. And then I still had my 9 to 5. And so coming from a Caribbean background, they're like, you need stability, you need that 9 to 5, you need that insurance. But I still wanted to do what I loved. And I just found a way to make it work. So then I launched my company, Nadia Murdock Fit. And the reason I started that too is because when I lost the weight after college, I gained 30 pounds, and then I lost the weight. And I always had people, how did you do this? How did you do this? And I strongly believe, Gurmeet, that the universe, God, whatever you believe in, shows you signs. And if you're open to seeing the signs, this is back to growth mindset. If you're open to seeing the signs, it's almost like that little trickle trail of like breadcrumbs. You're getting those directions, but you have to be open to see it, right? You can't just be like, oh, that guy was nice. Wait, that guy owns a startup and he's connected with so-and-so. And I want, you got to learn how to see the signs and connect the dots, and don't be afraid to ask, right? One of my coaches, my business coaches from the past said, closed mouths don't get fed. You're not going to know unless you ask. And it's better to ask and get a no than to never ask at all. And so I started my company, and from there, I started pitching myself to local media, and I've been on TV. And then 2020 happened, just to fast forward. Beautiful. And I was pregnant with my son in the middle of lockdown, my second son. And it was considered a high-risk pregnancy.
Wow.
Here's the mindset, right? Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even go to the hospital. Was I going to let the situation control me, or was I going to get ahead of the situation and control it? And that's exactly what I did. And so through that process, I got certified in cognitive behavioral therapy, which became an additional aspect of my company. And so that's when the one-on-one coaching started, in addition to the fitness. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, the signs, right? I could have been like riddled with fear,
Yeah.
but I use that to propel me to the next. And I don't want to go through that again, but I am appreciative of going through that because I've changed so many women's lives in addition to the ones I impacted before. So it's really been a great journey, and there's just more to come.
Well, one side is you going through a lot of stuff and you overcoming your fear, but I think other part, a beautiful part of that is sharing that information with a lot of people and
Yeah.
helping them to get over their fears or whatever
Yes.
they're going through, right? So I think that's a blessing for a lot of people, because you don't have that normally. A lot of people don't have access to that kind of information. Somebody's just gone through it. They have experienced how they
Right.
overcome that, and then they can share their story with other people so they can also deal with their issues, whatever they're dealing with.
Gurmeet, I find that when I became more vulnerable, that made me more relatable. And I think that oftentimes, especially with social media, we see the finished product, but we never knew what got that person there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important as a coach and as a mindset coach, especially, to be transparent. Like, I get what you're going through right now. That was me X amount of years ago, or I went through something similar, because that's where you feel the community, right? And that's where you feel the support. And that's all most people want, just to be heard and feel supported.
Yeah, because there's so many success stories, but never that struggle that what they go through, right? So as a
Yeah.
human, as a humans, we can't relate to success stories, but we can relate to struggles somebody's going through, right? So
Correct.
if you don't share those struggles, how are we going to relate to you or to
Right.
somebody else, right? You need to share that. I think that's beautiful part of your story is you
Yeah.
share those struggles and then we can all relate to each other. But if all you hear is just a success story, oh, that person got so successful, how
Yeah.
can, when you're going through struggles, how are you going to relate to that?
Yeah, like exactly. If you knew that someone's success, it has you feel hopeful of what you can work towards if you know that someone went through the same tough times or a similar tough time that you're currently going through. Because like you can convince yourself as much as you can, but like it's
Yeah.
almost like science, right? If there's
Yeah.
case studies, then you're like, oh, okay. Like so I
Yeah.
think, I just think vulnerability is hard for many people. And especially as a CEO, like I think I've gone to talks where CEOs share tough times or how they grew up. And I think, sometimes we're like, oh, that's so hokey, but I think it's kind of nice because it's
Mhm.
like you see if it's humble beginnings or if they had a hardship in the middle of their college career or whatever, they're real. They're not
Yeah.
just the boss, and so I
Yeah.
think that's really important.
Very interesting. So I see a lot of products you have on Amazon as well. So what area you involved in? You involved in a mindset, coaching business leaders on a many different areas. So if you just walk
Yeah.
us through, how many different items you involve in to helping our people?
So like I said before, like I don't want to limit myself, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I used to feel that I had to just be the coach. I just had to do this. And so I said to myself, why? So, and also something you said before, Gurmeet, like taking your past and having it help what you're doing now. So my past in PR and marketing, I made a lot of great relationships with brands and
Yeah.
influencers and business owners. So as I go and do events and I do speaking engagements and I want to team up with a like-minded brand or a female-owned company, that brings that in. And so there are some brands that I work with. I have them on my Amazon shop. You can find it Nadia Murdock. I also do speaking engagements with a lot of nonprofits. I have a big event coming up in October at NJ Pack in New Jersey. And I like the philanthropic tie-in, right? And I think that as successful as you are, whatever arena it is, you should always try to give back. And there was a statement I heard, do you want to be famous or do you want to be great? And I think famous is when you're like 21, but great, I remember Gurmeet, he helped me with, like you want to be memorable, you want to make that impact on someone's life. And it could be so small. And honestly, you don't know how you're impacting someone's life. There are times where I've gotten you really changed my life with that podcast interview you did. I was like, I did, but that feels awesome. And so I try to attach myself with companies and brands and nonprofits that are really making a difference, because I think we're here for a short amount of time. And while you're here, let's help others. Let's go big. And so that's what I try to do.
Very nice. Yeah, you definitely want to find way to give back. I think that's very great. Definitely people remember that if you help them, not
Yeah.
just giving information, but you can help them to get through some of the challenges they are going through anytime, right?
Exactly. Like, and even in the workplace, like if you remember the time you first, very, very, very first started, like
Yeah.
being kind. I remember when I worked at Pfizer, there was a senior doctor and she talked to me on the first day and I was just like, whoa, like, and like, as your first job ever, having this senior person talk to you makes a huge difference. So I think learning to humble yourself and remembering where you once were makes you a better coworker, a better leader, and a better business owner.
Very interesting. So, there's so much wisdom in your experiences, Nadia. I learned so much. I'm sure business leaders who are watching, they can learn a lot as well. And I will encourage everybody to just, reach out to you, connect with you, and have a conversation. Who knows what the discussion is going to take, but, have a discussion with you, have a chat with you, see where does that take. But maybe there's opportunities. Where can people find you? How can they connect with you, Nadia?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram, fit.com. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter, lots of mindset tips. And if you want to email me, you can email me Nadia at NadiaMurdockFit.com.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to include all the contact information below the video as well. So what's a couple of items you wanted to mention that, there's events happening in New Jersey. What else happening in your world in the next few days?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I do one-on-one coaching, and I find that to be very impactful, especially with some of the women I'm working with that are in the finance sector and the creative sector. And when you work on your mindset, not only does it help your professional life, but it helps your personal life, and they go hand in hand. So I offer 3 packages. I offer one-on-one coaching twice a month or every week for a period of 6 months. And it's for 6 months because, like I talked about, vulnerability, you got to get comfortable. And in order to get comfortable, that's like the first 2 sessions, but you also have to be ready. So as you had mentioned a few times, Gurmeet, like, how do you know if your mindset's right? Some of the questions that I proposed in this talk, like ask yourself, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're filling up your cup? Do you feel like you're limiting yourself? And I pull those questions out of my clients or potential clients and really help them see how they may not be stepping into the power that they ultimately have. And through those 3 coaching programs, and then I have a maintenance program to help keep them on track, as you had asked about, so that you can be your best self.
Yeah, we all working on a business, definitely, we get on a very narrow focus to grow our companies, or trying to achieve goals in a business. And when you're so narrowly focused, you're going to miss so many blind spots, right? That's where we need coaches. That's where we need people around you to show you those blind spots. So, while you're working on your goals and your the objectives, you can also take care of yourself as well, right? So that's, I think it's a great help that, somebody can highlight those blind spots for you and help you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, because you're gonna move much faster whatever you're trying to achieve if you have those blind spots taken care of.
The blind spots and connecting the dots, right?
Connecting the dots, you got it. Yeah.
Seeing why your behavior is what it is.
Yeah.
Once you've identified those blind spots, I totally agree. Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. Good stuff. Thank you so much for time. Enjoy our discussion. I appreciate all your time. Thank you so much, Nadia. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Okay. You too.